just been reminiscing on, my very first day with the company and how it all came about. And some of you know the story that I interviewed with Ford Credit in January of 1980 and of 1984. I'm sorry. And Jim Connors, who was the vice president of the sales operations for Ford Motor Credit, had a home down in Savannah, Georgia. And he would always come to the University of Georgia and stop by and interview on his way going down to his summer home. And I had my 30-minute time with him, and we sat and we talked during that 30 minutes. But he never asked me one question about my time as a student at Georgia. We talked about the pulp mill, because I worked all my life. I mean, from 14 all the way up to now, I've been working, and I worked during the summers at the pulp mill. And he worked at the pulp mill before he started with his career with Ford. And so we talked about the pulp mill my whole 30 minutes. Never talked about what I did, never talked about a class or anything about while I was at Georgia. So I figured, okay, he wasn't interested in me. So that was the end of that. He went on to Savannah, his home, and I went on back to class. But it was the Thursday before I graduated. I got to my apartment. And there was a note that was stuck on my door from the branch manager at the Athens Service Center, at the Athens branch. And all the message said was, we want you to come to work for Ford Credit. I'd actually accepted a job with Liberty Mutual and IBM, but when I got the note, it was something that I knew, because my grandfather, all he drove were Ford cars. My uncles would go out and buy another car, but he wouldn't let them park there. He just drove Ford. So when he found out that Ford, and I told him that they all had gotten up to Athens for graduation, because this was on a Thursday, that Mr. Knuckles wanted me to come to work for Ford Credit. He was like, that's where you're going to work. And he said, and when you go to work, understand that you got a job to do. And so you go to work, even when you don't feel like working, you go to work, and you do a good job. So that is really what has driven me to do what I do. Realizing that Aaron Weston told me as a student graduating from college, whatever you do a good job. And because you have a responsibility to do good and to do the right thing. And so that has been over all of the relocations and 5 times I've moved with the company. It's all been because, where I grew up, how I grew up, and the realizing that my grandfather and my grandmother, along with my mother, they were charging me to do and to be better and to do better than they had an opportunity to do. So when I'm at this 30th anniversary, I accept this award in recognition and in honor of Aaron, Letha, and Laura. And all that they have done and imparted in my life. And for those of you, as I commence my retirement on Friday, I challenge all of you to think and to realize you're working for a great company. And one that will be with you. All it's asked of you is to do what is required to do when they brought you in the door. So again, I thank you